You're listening to episode number 52 of the Up Rev Ninja podcast, and this is your host, Tom Hudson.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Up Rev Ninja podcast. If this is your first time listening, thanks for joining us. This show is produced each week with the single intent of discovering the tips, tricks, hacks, and lessons learned from our guests that has catapulted them into living the best version of themselves. Join your host, Tom Hudson, as he continues his search for the best methods to up-rev his life. Now, let's dive into the show.
Today's guest is Heath Armstrong. His life mission is to help motivate people to destroy the fear and gremlins that hold your freedom and superpowers hostage. His passion is teaching skills and techniques to help you beast up your happiness muscles and build your empire of smiles. To defeat his own dark villains, he spent over 200 hours interviewing over 100 creative masterminds on the magic behind transforming visions to reality. In the process, he sold his house and everything that he owned to eliminate distractions and debt, and he eventually retired from his career for full-time location independence and entrepreneurship. In 2015, he started an e-commerce company that has sold over $1.3 million in Sweet Ass products to date, and he only works about 2 hours per day on this business. His latest projects include the Sweet Ass Journal to develop your happiness muscle in 100 days, and the Sweet Ass Domination Deck to motivate your maniac creative mind. Hey, today on the Up Rev Ninja podcast, I've got Heath Armstrong with me. How you doing today, Heath?
I'm always incredible, Tom.
I know, man.
Incredible.
You're I would say you're sweet ass based on everything I've read about you and some of the projects that you've got going on and that you've some of your accomplishments. I'm super excited to talk to you, and it's awesome just catching up the 15 minutes before the show. I read your bio out to my audience already, but I would love for you to tell us just like who you are and how you got to this point you're at today.
I should probably point out first that I really am not always incredible, despite convincing myself that I am. Like it's a constant habit that you have to work towards to look at the optimistic side of every situation. But there are times where I am totally laying on the ground, like sucking my thumb, and my pants are down, and my fiance is like, "You are such a crybaby. Like, get up." But you know what? I've been learning like to let those emotions out more, because being emotional is actually a very root of it's the root of your source and kind of that connection to higher creativity. And if we have all this stuff blocking us up, we can't connect to the channel that we need to be our higher selves. And so like I've been like just crying and stuff, like I'll just do it, and then I feel so much better, and it's amazing. But yeah, dude, thanks for having me. Like I have a pretty vast, long, angular story, but in a well, I don't want to say nutshell. That's too much of a corporate term, and I hate corporate.
Well, 2008. I was reading your story in 2008, financial crisis. I think that's when you got out of college, right?
Yeah, 2008.
So start there, because that sounded pretty pivotal.
This is actually a good story, because I was just editing a podcast that I did with a guy a stranger on a plane that really changed my life. And it's really eerie. And I have to warn you, like there's some really woo-woo stuff in this, and it hasn't been really put out there vocally yet. But so 2008, I graduated my degree was concrete industry management.
Okay.
It was the highest job placement. It was like literally like testing concrete on job sites and stuff. And I had a job lined up in San Diego that fell through because of the collapse. So I didn't get it. I started bartending for a little bit, ended up landing a job in Kentucky. But before I did that, I was getting interviews, and I got on a plane. Keep in mind, like Tennessee, you're in whiskey country. I was drinking a lot, but I didn't think it was weird because everybody did.
Right.
Looking back now, I'm like, oh my God, I was a raging functional alcoholic. When you're drinking, literally, like we were buying a handle every 2 days, just gone, like just all day, every day drink. And so I was still like, I wasn't like worthless. I still was working like 40 hours a week. I had good grades in college, did not in high school, but I was top of a class in college. And I think it's just because I was a better test taker and I didn't have to do homework. But I got on a plane to go to Houston for a job interview for like working on an oil rigger out in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah, totally. Yep. I'm from Texas, so I know the offshore oil rigs. Yeah.
And Houston sucks. Sorry for everybody listening from Houston, but fuck that place. And I was so I was like interviewing with these people, and the guy was really weird. It was really a creepy vibe. There's no way I was taking the job. He kind of gave me this like weird, like child molester vibe. It was just like this dark, dingy office. Like they were trying to offer like a bunch of money, and you basically just sell your soul and go live on these tankers for like 3 years and like do whatever. That stuff doesn't matter. But so I got on the plane to go to that interview, which doesn't matter. The plane or the interview doesn't matter. The plane ride means everything. So I get on this plane and I'm like flying Southwest, made sure I like checked in really early so I could like pick my seat first or whatever. I'm on the aisle towards the front, and like the plane's almost full and there's still a middle seat in between me. And this guy gets on the plane and he's like, dude, it just looks like this like white Rastafarian maniac, just covered in tats. Like I totally judged him because that's just how I was then. I was very judgmental. I was like, oh my God, that guy's freaky looking. He had piercings all in his face. Like everything about this huge beard, just totally, I was judging him. And he came and sat in the middle seat, and I was like, and he had this smell to him, and I was like, man, this guy needs a shower. Like this is bad. And I was, my defense mechanism was like, just don't look at him. Please don't talk to me. Like, we'll just get through this flight or whatever. Well, he like taps me at some point. I have my headphones on. I take them off.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, dude, like what? And he's just like, what's going on, man? Like just for no reason. And I'm like, oh God, like, but I made space to talk to him. And this is an important point because too many of us walk around the world with our faces shoved in our cell phones. We miss things that are extremely important in life. The possibility of meeting somebody who will teach you something that will change your life. The possibility of running into somebody who may become your husband or your wife or the greatest love of your life. Or in this particular case, a stranger who definitely put one seed in my mind that changed my entire life. And he's like, I made space to talk to him. I didn't close myself off. I could have easily shrugged and not done anything, but I didn't. And I started talking to him, and it just, got to a point where he said, well, what are you doing? And I told him I was going down to interview, blah. And you can read this full story about like my whole transition from alcoholic to where I am now on my website. If you go to heatharmstrong.com story, it's like 80 pages or more. So like, I can't possibly get into all of it, but this one piece is he asked me if I loved it, like what I was doing, where I was going. He said, do you love it? And like nobody had ever my entire life like said that you were supposed to love what you were doing. And this is true. Like you just
totally.
And it's sad, but it's totally true. I just thought, why would I love it? Like it's a job that I have to go get. Why would I? No, I don't love it. Like I love working on computers or like making websites and things like that, which I wasn't going to school for. And I wasn't looking for a job in those fields. And he just said like, well, then why are you doing it? And I was like, fuck you. Like, what, dude, like who are you? Like, why, what do you get? What have you done with your life? Things like that. And, but I never forgot that because I was like, what? Like, what is going on here? And when it happened, I just was offended, but then he started talking to me more and more. And he was like, I was like, well, what are you doing? And he's like, well, I'm heading down to Houston to meet with his wife and his family. He had just gotten back to the United States. I was like, where were you? He's like, well, I was in Rwanda. I was like, Rwanda? Like, I've never met anybody that's been to Africa, like in Tennessee. Like nobody goes to Africa. And he was like, I've been in Rwanda. And he's like, yeah, I mean, I've been over there for like 10, 15 years back and forth, but I was extradited by the United States. So I finally got back. They were holding me hostage over there. And I was just like, I was like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, and I think he's just full of shit. I'm like, this guy is just ridiculous. I don't know who this guy is. Quit talking to me. But like, I was still interested in making space. And I was like, tell me more. And He's like, yes, like he couldn't get into too much detail because it was still like a case with the national government and national security and things like that. But I just recorded an episode with him, which is going to be the second episode of my podcast coming out. And we talk about this experience, which is the episode gets really, really weird because it crosses into all these weird dreams and entities that we've both had separate from each other, but they're the exact same thing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And he just said, like, he asked me these questions and then he started showing me like the pictures of the Heaths. He showed me this black mamba that he chopped its head off with a machete, and there was a lizard in its mouth. And I was like, oh my God, this guy's not lying at all. He was in Africa and he told me he was over there. He had started a nonprofit to teach women who were victims of the genocide how to make jewelry so that he could bring it back to the United States and sell it, and then fund them to be able to live a healthier life, but also gender equality issues, which if you try to speak out against gender equality over there, you get suppressed, you get kidnapped, you get imprisoned. And that's what had happened to him. Now that I've talked to him recently, we've become really good friends. This is the reality. And he was working as an informant and all of this crazy shit that he couldn't tell me then.
Wow.
But it left up it left the brain waves open for like, what the hell was going on over there? But he asked me that question, like, do you love it? And no, like, I don't love it. And when I got off the plane in Houston, I bought a couple of necklaces off of him, and I was just like, dude, I'll never forget this. And I got back to and I gave the necklaces to like my mom and my girlfriend at the time or whatever, and paper beaded jewelry that looks really, really nice. It's beautiful. And I got back to school area. I still had another semester, I think, or I before my rent ended or something, and I was still living there, and I was just went back to drinking hardcore, like whatever. Like, that was a weird interaction. Like, I'm not gonna take anything of it, but it wasn't long after that I woke up, dude, in this bed. Like, I was just I never had any type of dream or experience like this before, and this is gonna sound really weird, but I came out of an abrupt sleep paralyzed for like 10 minutes. I couldn't move a limb. My arms were crippled. My feet were crippled. I've done a lot of like looking into like what causes this. And apparently there is some sort of really deep dream state that you rarely anybody ever wakes up directly out of.
Right.
But you can, and you can be in this position. But for what happened for me was in the dream, like, it was flashes of this guy. His name's Jared Ngaza, by the way. And nonstop flashes. And then it turned into this entity figure. And this entity was, dude, it gives me goosebumps thinking about it, but it was like, there's no way to put this into words. It had the blackest, scariest eyes that of a description that isn't in this world. Like, it's a completely different realm. It was like paralyzing, scary, moving, miraculous all at the same time, but extremely frightening. And this face, it was like this face with dreads and these eyes, and I couldn't lock away from the eyes because if I tried to move, it was just right there. Didn't matter what I did. It didn't matter if I closed my eyes, it was right there. And there was no talking. It was just a thought transmission. And all it was if you don't stop what you're doing, you're coming with me.
Holy shit.
And like, I wake up in this bed and I'm paralyzed. I piss my pants. I can't move. It's like the middle of the afternoon because I'd been drinking all night. And it was just insanely frightening because I had those flashes of Jared, and then I had this happen to me, and I was like, I gotta make a change here. Like, I don't know what's going on, but it scares me. And I had this like really Christian, one of my best friends I'd grown up with for a while. She was like super Christian. I like immediately messaged her because I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't know anything about the spirituality stuff, but like, what is this? And she related it to some sort of like God experience or whatever. No matter what you believe in, like God, nature, spirits, the source, a higher creative power is what we all have in common there. And I ignored it, but I kept drinking. I kept drinking 4 or 5 years later, six years later, 2000. So that was when that happened. That was 10 years ago when I met him on the plane. So
Okay.
About 6 years later, I woke up on my garage floor in Lexington, Kentucky. I'd been working in the concrete industry at this point, later down the road. My car is running in the front yard. I have a nosebleed, holding a bottle of liquor in my hand. Like, when I wake up, there's a half empty bottle of Jim Beam. And, my face is actually up on the step going into there's a door inside my garage going into the house. My face is on that like this.
Yeah.
Like, And it was brutal, dude. Like I woke up and I remember never feeling so bad in my life. And I just immediately started getting those flashes. And I had gotten specific times throughout those 4 or 5 years where I'd randomly get the flashes of that entity. And it was always an alert to like, whoa, check yourself, what you're doing. But this time it was like that last warning, like,
Right.
you know, and that was when I decided to start looking into changing my life, man. And that's how I really had this like interaction with myself of what is it that truly matters and what are we doing? Like I'm working in this industry that I hate. I have this house of all this shit that I don't need, and TV and a TV in every single wall and all 4 bedrooms and a full finished basement and a bar and a hot tub and all these things, and like in debt up to my ears. Like
Right.
I just paid for all that shit on loans. Yeah.
The American
give me a housing loan when I'm like 24 or something, whatever, like zero money down, approval immediately. And I was like, well, what are these people doing around the world that are living the type of life that I want to live? And I just got that flash when I was laying in the bathtub, just like sulking, not knowing what direction to go, like really just depressed beyond reason. And I just opened up my phone for the first time and was like, I saw the podcasting app.
Yeah.
I didn't know what it was. And I was like, that's weird. I've never seen this icon. It was like when Apple first put them on your phone after the update.
Yeah.
I'm wondering what year that was. It'd be interesting to see if that actually was the day that they put those on the phones, but because that would be really weird.
It would be.
I clicked on it and pulled up a random podcast episode, which of course is an EO Fire episode because it was the first one on there. And I'd never heard a podcast before, but I listened to an episode with a girl named Amber Vilhauer. Insanely inspirational. She runs No Guts, No Glory Enterprises. I get to talk to her again shortly because she's coming on my show, my new show here. But she just had this like warm feeling, like she had a story that was kind of depressing to start, and she turned everything around. She built this WordPress company. I knew how to use WordPress. I had diddled around with things online. I wanted to figure these things out so I could, create a little bit of side income and see if it was possible to leave my job. And so I did, dude. I reached out to her. It was the scariest thing in the world because I'm an extreme introvert. And I was like, nobody is going to want to respond to me. But if I want to study successful people and what they do in their life and then kind of adopt those things into my life, I have to suck it up for this one time. And dude, she just responded immediately and was like the most warming, incredible woman ever. And she introduced me to 2 people. She introduced me to Hal Elrod, who wrote The Miracle Morning.
Right.
And she introduced me to Paul Kemp, who was the App Guy podcast. It was a big podcast. I don't know if he still does it or not, but Hal's Miracle Morning was the first habit that I introduced in my life that changed everything for me, dude. I was like, wait, if I get up early and I do these things, if I start meditating and I, exercise and do these things in the morning, how can that affect how the rest of my days go? How can that affect how my mind works throughout the day? And how can it make me stronger to work towards my visions and my goals and my dreams? And then Paul, he kind of taught me how to podcast. I mean, I was already doing gangster rap songs and things like that. So I had a little bit of experience with Cool Edit Pro, which is now Audacity. Adobe bought it. So I knew how to use that software. And I was just like figuring things out, man. I just started podcasting. And if you go back and listen to the first episodes of my old shows, it was called the Artsy Now Show. It's so bad. Like, I mean, it's so mocking of like EO Fire, one of those early shows where you just like ask structured questions. But you know what, dude? I figured things out along the way. I made this space and I got a Hollywood director on as like my second or third show. And every single one of those people taught me something. And it led me to people like Bree. It led me to a guy named Jason Bearwick, who is now co-founding Rage Create with me, which is the Kickstarter we're getting ready to launch for the Sweet Ass Domination Deck, which is like my baby that I've been so excited about.
That video's awesome, by the way.
Yeah, it really. We haven't really put it out in front of anybody because I'm really good at creating things, but then I don't know how to like put them out there. Like I don't promote anything I do. It's a Achilles heel for me. I like to write and create, and like writing these cards and getting the designs and the stuff were amazing. But the video he's talking about is on ragecreate.com, I think, right? The Kickstarter launch video.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to the Philippines next week for a month to launch that Kickstarter as a side note. But so I met Jason and he was like, dude, it was funny. It was a Twitter auto DM, man. And it was exactly what Twitter auto DM direct message.
Yeah.
And we both had like these like robots set up to like respond to people who followed us or whatever the hell we were doing to try to get more followers. Ridiculous.
Yep.
And like mine responded to his, and then like we both looked at it and I just like started to try to troll him a little bit. And then like we were like sending each other messages back. And then I looked at him and he wasn't too far from me. He was in North Carolina. I was in Kentucky. I was from Tennessee. And I just set up a call with him. I was like, let's do a podcast interview. Cause it's very incredible to be able to just say, let's talk about something and ask people questions that you want to know and then apply those answers to your life. And that's what the beautiful thing about podcasting is. That's why I love it so much. But he left his job like a couple months or 6-7 months before that. Maybe he was in like stockbroking or something, hated it. He was like working at Jimmy John's to try to get by while he tried to figure out a way to like sell things online. And he was just like, I was really into automation and podcasting and networking, and like we just became friends. And eventually he started sending me screenshots, and I'd be riding around my boss, like going to like sales meetings and stuff. And he'd be like, holy shit, he sold $600 on Amazon today. Like that's insane.
Right.
And then the next week it'd be like $1,200. And I'm like, $1,200. Right. And then it would be like $1,600. And I'm like, oh my God, $1,600 this week on Amazon. That's nuts. And before I knew it, he was selling $20,000 or $30,000 a month on Amazon. And he was like, how do you do it? I was like, how do you do it? Like, I want to do this. And like, so he started telling me like, well, this is what I'm doing. And he was going to stores and like literally scanning shelves for products. And then it would match them to Amazon and see what the price difference was. And if most people don't understand that on Amazon, prices are actually mostly escalated based on, normal stores,
right? Which
is why the Google Express checkout thing is going to change everything, because it takes all of the prices and makes it as easy as Amazon, but you get the best deal. Not that I'm speaking out against Amazon because it's a main revenue stream.
Right. You've got to.
It's just the reality. And so, like, I tried this out where I was doing this thing called retail arbitrage, and I was like, if during lunch break and shit, driving around my truck, like I'm supposed to be like meeting customers and stuff, and I'm pulling into like Walmart's and I'm like scanning shelves, like, oh, I found these Paw Patrol toys, like they're selling for $30 on Amazon. I can get them for $8 here. That means I can make like $8 a piece after commission. And I was taking them home, buying like 30 of them, taking them home, putting the labels on them, sending them into Amazon. They would sell, I'd get paid out. And I was like, this is insane. Like I can actually make money. And I've been trying to do website projects for people for a long time, but dude, you know how trading your time for money is. Service-based businesses are brutal.
Totally.
And it wasn't any different than what I was doing with my time at work, like service-based business. And I made a vow to myself, like, look, I want to travel the world. I want to be location independent. Everything that I do and everything that I work on, it has to be something that creates passive income. It has to be something that I can automate and scale. It has to be something that I'm genuinely interested in and that will also encourage or inspire or help people in the future in some way. And so I looked at Amazon as like this anchor to be able to create financial freedom so that I could do other things that were bigger. Like, and I was just in Uganda for a while working with these kids to help international school, which was an incredible experience, and making these products that help turn people's attention around from like cloudy clusterfuck to, oh, visions, goals, dreams right in front of me. I got to get back on track. These products that turn your attention around in 10 seconds or less, that, as I think most things out there right now are like long self-help books and things like that people don't have time for. So I want to do these like quick action products, but I started doing the Amazon stuff and I was like, this is great. Like I sold some Lego blankets. I got my first sales. I was just so excited. I was telling everybody about it. And then like 2 weeks into it, I was like, I'm with my fiance and we're like scanning shelves, and she's like, can we please just leave? Like, this is terrible. And I was like, oh my God, like, I feel like I'm working at a retail store. Like, this is worse than my job. Like, this is terrible.
Yeah.
Like, why am I doing this? Like, I can't do this. I'm not going to like hire people to come to stores with me and scan shelves. This doesn't seem like it's something that's going to hold up in the future. Like dinosaurs die,
Right.
And so I was like, I'm not doing this shit anymore, man. And I told him, I was like, dude, I'm glad that you're selling that and sending me pictures of you with shopping carts full of stuff, but like, you figure out a way to automate it, let me know. I'm out. And I went back to trying other business models, which I tried to do like podcasting services, which I did for a little bit, but again, service-based business. I wasn't able to automate it the way I wanted to. I purchased podcastpal.com and I started building a website that was supposed to be like kind of a customer exchange service for podcasting.
Yeah.
And again, like just too much competition. Amazon and all these other services were kind of getting into this. Fiverr was coming out, things like that. And the beauty of podcasting was more of like keeping things free and kind of in this like close network of people, and not so much as to like blowing it out to where people are like, you need to pay me $100 if you want me to come on your show, motherfucker.
Right.
And things like that. And I didn't want that to see that happen. And I didn't feel aligned with it, man. It's just my intuition wasn't pulling me in that direction. And I talked to my friend Jason Moore, who was kind of mentoring me at the time. He's the guy who runs Zero to Travel podcast. Incredible dude, man. Incredible dude. And that was a podcast that was inspiring me then and really helping me get through things. And he called me. I was in like this hotel in like the middle of Chattanooga, Tennessee. And I was drinking and I was like trying to decide between like doing this podcast pal thing or possibly looking into trying to automate the Amazon thing. I needed some kind of income because my fiance was moving to Washington, because we were like, look, let's get you a job out there coaching. You can follow your dreams. And then I will have no choice but to like work my ass off to move out there with you.
Right.
And it put a fire under me. And I was like, I got to be able to leave my job within this next year. And if I want to be with her, like, you know, and not just like let her float away. I don't want to let her get away. And we're getting married now. So like it ended up pretty well. But he called me and was like, dude, what are you doing? I just had this weird universal feeling that I need to call you. And I was like, that's crazy, man, because I just got off the phone with my other friend, Jason, the guy who taught me Amazon. And he was like, telling me how he'd started automating certain things. And I was interested in trying to start that aspect back up again, but I wasn't sure if I wanted to, because like, you know, what kind of products do I sell? Do I really believe in that?
Right.
But I have this podcast pal thing that I'm so invested in and I spent all this money in. I have this website that I've paid all this money to get developed custom so that, you know, I can launch it, but it just doesn't feel right. Like he was like, you know, if you flip a coin, what side do you want it to land on? Because if you're in a problem with intuition, like that's so true. Like you always know what side you want to go. There's no doubt. Like,
right.
You may doubt or have resistance or be scared, but like there's always a direction that your intuition pulls you. And so I did that and was like, dude, it's this Amazon thing. Like, I don't know. It just feels right. And it's like, if I do this, I have to shut this all down. And like, it was weird that they both called me at the same night, which I hadn't talked to them both in a while. And like, it's just the stars were aligning for me. And I put the beer down and was like, and I love craft beer, so it's hard to put the beer down. I think I might have actually been out. I was pounding like Stone IPA or something. And
it's one of my favorites.
No, it's great, dude. And I learned about that in San Diego with my
I lived there for a few years, so yeah.
Yeah. Drinking it like outdoor temperature there. I was like, what is this? This is glorious. But I just started, man. I started doing Amazon stuff. And essentially what I thought was, look, if he can go to the stores and scan shelves, and now we're realizing that like you can just as easily order from their online websites, but with the benefit of being online is that you can promo stack coupons and things like that to get even lower prices. My vision was we can learn how to be the middleman and resell these products by buying them online and then sending them to a prep company, so we don't have to touch the products, so we don't have to pack them at our house and label physically work. We'll send them to a prep company. We'll make sure that the margin is there to cover it. And then the prep company will prep everything, send it to Amazon. And then when it sells, they pay us out. And it's basically this kind of like touchless, removable thing for us.
Right.
And of course, it's way harder than that. There's a lot more different aspects and things to figure out, how to teach people like the pricing. And there's a whole bunch of stuff to learn. And on a side note for that too, like if you're somebody who wants to learn e-commerce, like there's so much shit out there that just wants to rip you off, and they want you to pay thousands of dollars for their courses, and it's generic material. It's bullshit. Be very wary, guys, about cheesy webinars and things like that sell you this idea that you can make massive amounts of, millions of dollars if this guy is posting like Ferrari pictures and shit.
Right.
Look for the authentic people. There's nothing really out there. People ask me all the time, like, what are the resources? Like, we taught ourselves.
Yeah.
And we didn't learn from anybody else's guides. I do have a lot of respect for Greg Mercer from Jungle Scout. But the courses are outrageously expensive. And when you're somebody who's bootstrapping and squeezing your butt cheeks because you can barely make it by, trying to create a side business to get away from your job, like, it's really hard. So, which is why we created this guide. Finally, it's not out yet, but if anybody's interested in that, just email me personally and I'll get you one of the beta copies before it goes out. It's not a full-blown course. It's a 220-page guide on how to learn metrics of Amazon, which is what you really need if you want to understand supply and demand. It's not all of the bullshit. It's literally exactly what I do, how my team is set up. And it's not saying that you can do the exact same thing unless you can, but like if it'll work for you or not, I don't know. But it's the metrics. It's exactly what I study. It's why I understand the supply and demand. And I finally have the rough draft of that done. It's just not physically out yet. But it's only $80, okay, compared to 50, 1,000, 2,000, whatever it is. I just had to say that because people come to me all the time about Amazon, Tom, and like I'm very depressed watching people buy a course and then fail and lose a lot of money. I don't want to see it. So if you guys have questions about what course you're considering, obviously there's millions of people that sell on Amazon, so it's a totally possible thing to do. But feel free to reach out, email me, heath@fistpumps.com. I'll answer you. Email me with the course question, and I'll tell you if I think it's legit or not, or if I know anything about the dude, because that's why Jason and I got together and made this paper document with some videos attached and all of the tools and resources we use, how our team is set up, so you can actually see how that works. But my vision was that if I could create this resale arbitrage, which would be called online arbitrage at this point, and then later down the road, I could use that as cash flow to really bring my true dream to life, which is making my own products that inspire people.
Right.
Which brings us to today.
Yeah.
Because my first product, I guess the Sweet Ass Journal would have been my first product, right? But that's more of a publishing platform. My two main passions are writing and just making products that I really love, just helping people like stay focused, right? And so it's really weird when we talk about things like this because it's like manifest now. Like I'm sitting here and I have this the Sweet Ass Domination Deck that's going to launch on Kickstarter, and I have this journal live, and like it all worked out based on my vision, and it was specifically because I set that vision back then, and I did two things every day to work towards it. And it's incredible what baby steps can accomplish, dude. And I think you know that, right?
Oh yeah. Well, what are you doing now? I mean, you've got these projects, but yeah, and pre-interview before I started recording, you showed me what you've got up on your wall, some of your tracker sheets and stuff like that. But what do you do now to, or maybe dive into those tracker sheets? Like, what do you do now to make sure that you're staying on focus in the game and continually moving forward?
So my core values are still the same as they were when I set the goal to move forward. And I started that story about the entity earlier. I should probably round that out really quick in a very fast fashion. I went to Nicaragua. I just got back from Nicaragua in September. And you know how I was following those entity flashes? I didn't know what the closure was on that. I changed the direction that I was going when I met Amber and I started podcasting, obviously. I met Jason. I was able to leave my job and things like that. But I still didn't understand the entity thing. And I interviewed Jared the other day, and I'm telling him about this entity. And he's like, dude, those are the exact same entities. He's like, that's the exact same thing. The black eyes, the no mouth, and the transmission of thought. He's like, I've had that happen to me since I was 8 years old. And I was like, well, dude, it didn't happen to me till I met you on the plane.
Wow.
And he was like, he's like, that's obviously even more weird. It was weird enough to begin with. But so Jules Schroeder, she runs The Unconventional Life, which is the Forbes Under 30 show. I've become good friends with her recently. And I went down to Nicaragua with her. And the only reason I went was because when she initially reached out to me, and I started talking to her through a mutual friend, I got those flashes, dude, of that entity. And I was like, my entire life, even when the dog pissed on those journals that I had, that I told you about in the pre-chat, I got the flashes, and I was using it as a sign. Oh, there's a decision that's important here that I have to make. And so I was like, well, I don't have any money. Like my business last year actually did terrible. I got suspended in February, lost like $20,000, killed me, pushed me back into debt. I didn't have money, and I was like, in probably the hardest position of my life, because I just lost family members, I lost both my dogs to cancer, and I was like, it was horrifying. And I got the flash with Jules, and I was like, I got to go back down. I got to go to Nicaragua. This is what's really crazy, dude. So I go down there, and like, they're like, let's do this sacred breathwork ceremony. And it's like 75 people. And I'm like, sacred breathwork. Like, I've done a lot of psychedelics, so I've been in this weird atmospheres before. And I don't do any of that stuff recreationally anymore. I'd only do it for like sacred or medicinal purposes or whatever. And but breathwork is a different story. And they're like, this is going to get pretty crazy with 75. I'm like, how crazy could it be? You know, like, well, dude, it went. We're doing this breathwork. I'm back to back with my friend Holly, who I just met down there. Actually, like, you had to blindfold yourself and then randomly guide yourself to another random person. Then you had to go back to back, and you had to use each other as an anchor because it got that crazy. And so when we're all doing this breath work, like, you get into it, like, you go into this trance. And my friend Gregorio, who's the sexiest man alive, if I was into dudes, I would totally be all into him. He's leading this breath work, and I'm like, Jules is there, and all of these incredible entrepreneurs from around the world that are living these incredible lives. And we're all doing this combined energy breathing technique where you're breathing in, you're exhaling, but then you're all going into your own place. And there are people that were screaming. There were people that were crying. There were people that were laughing like lunatics. I think I did all of the above. Jules was puking off the side of the platform, and it was insane. And I went to this place, dude, where my body crippled up again. So like, you have to be anchored against the people because your limbs go like, you know, like this.
Yeah.
You can't control them. It's freakish, dude. And I go into the zone. Like, once you get in there and you have this excess oxygen rush, your brain goes into a different place. And it took me back to this area where I was like, you know, up in space, above the world, the same place I was in that dream that I had 10 years before with the entity. And I was like, oh my God, no, am I going to meet this thing again? Like, what's going on? What's going on? And it just came, and it was just like there again, except this time the eyes weren't black. They were bright blue. And it was like the most compelling, beautiful, attractive, like motherly type figure. Like, but it was the exact same figure. And this time I wasn't scared. And the message, again, no mouth, was just that you're in the right place. Not, you know, if you don't change your coming, it was like, you're in the right place. And I was like, oh my God. And then like, I was dancing with all my ancestors and my dogs above the world. And eventually, when he calls you back out of the meditation, I came back in, and of course I'm crippled like this. I can't move any joints. And I just started crying. I was like, oh my God, like, that was closure from that entire loop period, from Jared to all the things. I get to Nicaragua, and it's Jules, because she had told a story about how she had the same entity experience when she almost died on a wakeboarding. They thought she was gonna be paralyzed. She smashed her head. She had a meeting with that entity. This is stuff that I never would have ever believed in. I would have laughed at people for telling me shit like this. But I was talking to her, and I was like, well, did you know about Jared's entity? And he was like, I didn't know about Jules. This is all fucking really weird, man. This is all really weird.
Right, it's all coming together.
Full circle for me. Started with him, ended with her. But like, so I wanted to finish that story because I think I started it to finish it, but also because core values, right? Like, what do we mean? What do we want to do with our lives? Like, what is the importance? Like, what's truly valuable to you? And I think that's confusing for a lot of people because you have too many influences. You have so much stuff congested inside of you, from, you know, billboards and churches and your family and teachers and people telling you what you need to do your whole life. It's just all in there. And unless you let it out, you can't figure out who you truly are. And over the past couple of years, man, I wrote those values of like, you know, I want passive income. I want to be able to help people. I want to be able to travel the world. And I have this vision, and these are the things that are on my vision board. And what can I do every single day to move towards that? And so I pick 2 things per day that are in alignment with my core values that help me work towards my vision. And that's the most important anchor for my productivity, for my habits, for everything. And it started with a note card. Literally, it started with a note card. If anybody has never watched Earl Nightingale's The Strangest Secret on YouTube or listened to it, it was from like the 60s, but it is the most powerful 30-minute speech ever. And it's so true. That's where I got the note card idea from. But I started with a note card, and I just, every day I was like, okay, I have this job. My fiance is moving. I'm going to write the date that I want to be free by on this note card. 6/22/16 was my date. And on the other side, I'm going to write 2 things I can do to work towards my vision. So I'd write the date and what my vision was. And then I would write 2 things on the other side that would help me work towards the vision. I carried the note card with me. I did those 2 things every single day. And I didn't know when I started like that was going to make such a vast transition for me. But I knew other people that were successful that were doing it. And I knew that it would help me at least make progress and take action. And it wasn't as overwhelming as looking at the big picture. And it's insane how much it works, dude. And it's what I still do to this day. Like that's the anchor for me. That's the part of in the Sweet Ass Journal, you set 3 visions at the front of your 100 days.
Yeah.
And then you do 2 things a day to work towards those visions. You just do it over 100 days because you can track it by 1%, which is another technique that I've used, which is what kind of led to the habit tracker that you mentioned earlier. But that's the main thing, dude, to answer your question with this, the finish of the story in the middle of it.
No, that's
the main thing
awesome.
that I do. And that involves, it's not as hard as what people are, they expect to hear, right?
No, I know you and I started the show out, or not the show, but when we were talking before the show started, we talked about that. Like societal conditioning, the proverbial checklist, right? You go to high school, you go to college, you have 2.6 kids, you get the 2 dogs, White House, with the picket fence, and the 2 vehicles. Like that's what we're supposed to do, air quotes. And we just buy, consume, and never ask ourselves the question that you were asked by the stranger on the plane. Are you happy?
Does it make you happy?
It doesn't make you
happy.
Does it
add value to your life?
Totally.
Those two questions.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like those 2 questions are everything. Like if you have your values right, then you can ask yourself that question in every single decision. Because as you watched in like the Rage Create video, life isn't about what happens to you, right? It's not about the beauty that happens to you, and it's not about the bullshit that happens to you. It's about how you choose to react when it happens. So you can let bad situations leave you at the bottom of a bush, face down, pants down with a bottle of hooch, or waking up in your garage or whatever it may be. You can let those affect you and feel down and hide from it and run from it. Or you can use it as motivation and as fuel to find the silver lining and to work towards what those visions, dreams, and goals are presenting to you. And like we said earlier, I don't know if it was pre-chat or during the call, like we're all so closed off to what the world wants us to accelerate. It wants us to develop, to become our higher self. We have a lot of help. We have so much help. There is so much magic around us. It's like, are we willing to notice it?
Right.
How aware can we be? And that's why meditation and focus are such big things to me, because I don't want to be that guy walking on the street staring at my phone who walks right past the next guy who's going to teach me something that changes my life completely or helps me move to the higher version of myself. And I think too many of us do that our whole life. We get stuck in that zone and we never figure out what our highest calling is because we're just too distracted by people and billboards and spray tanning machines and things like that.
Yeah. So you're from Tennessee, so religion was probably a big part of your life, or at least
evangelistic Baptists.
Yeah. So I'm from.
It is crazy. The snake handlers are down there, bro.
Yeah. So I'm from the Bible Belt in northern Texas. I've got like 4 or 5 uncles for preachers. So like all my uncles are preachers almost. But one of the things. Damn, where was I going with this story? It was just the Holy Trinity, right? They talk about the Trinity in some religious circles. I was had a Reiki appointment about a month ago. And,
I love Reiki, dude.
Yeah, and so I'm studying along with my yoga. I'm studying on the Reiki side. So all the stuff that you said was woo woo. It's not woo woo to me.
You get it, because I've had some weird shit happen during Reiki experiences
it's
too.
Crazy,
where I'm
dude.
like, the girl, this friend Maddie Eisenberg, who I met when we lived in Walla Walla, Washington, she would do Reiki on me and be like, she'd tell me something from when I was like 8 years old, and she'd be like, I just, you're holding it in this spot of your body. Like, it
Yeah.
has to come out. And she would just tell me what it was. And I'd be like, well, there's no way you could have known that, obviously. So like,
Right.
this is really weird for me. And that's when that was before I had the closure with the entity, but that was another sign along the way. Like, this girl, you're connected to the source.
Yeah.
You really are.
Yeah. So about a month ago, this came up and it was funny. She said Trinity, and I loved her definition. And she said she had never used this before, but a lot of this, you're going back to your child, to who you were as a child at some point for trauma or whatever. She's like, all right, imagine you're that person. Imagine that you're looking at your child self, so your present day, and then your higher self, who you aspire to be, and the capital S version of self. So there's the three, there's the Trinity right there.
Right.
And I loved that metaphor, and I love visualizations, and I saw this on your website as well. And just seeing that visualization, for me now, it's so easy for me to kind of fall into that meditative state when I'm wanting to kind of reflect on, why do I feel this way? Why am I upset about X? And I can fall into that state pretty easily.
And you can
And
witness yourself.
I love
It's
it.
so different, man.
It is.
It's such a superpower.
Yeah.
Like, being able to remove yourself from a situation that would otherwise consume you and, send you on a poopy pants crybaby fest down the road, like being able
Those
to
still
look
happen.
at yourself. Well, that's just the natural order of things,
It
right?
is.
Positive, negative. It's like you have to have balance. You're always
Yeah.
going to have to read that. But like, how strong can you make your mind?
Right.
And to be able to notice it, like, it's amazing if you're in pain, how that pain can go away pretty quickly if you're watching yourself from above,
Right.
looking at yourself, monitoring yourself. Oh, he's got shoulder pain. He's got back pain. That's what that is.
Yeah.
Let's let it pass, let it have its day and then let it pass. And then that's something that's really hard to do, obviously. And like, I try to work on it. And the more we have conversations like this where we bring it back up, then later today, I'll be like, oh, when something turmoil happens or some asshole like cuts me off and
Oh yeah.
tries to steal my Fruity Pebbles or something, I'll be like, oh,
There's
it's
a
okay.
message. There's a message somewhere in here. Let me find it. It's just it's all this pre-programming that we have that we don't think that way first.
Yeah. It's interesting because religion actually, like, the metaphor was great. What I was reading into this the other day, like, organized religion and people who have religions, if they're like legitimate about it, if not like the fake people who
Yeah.
just go for like whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that all Catholics do it, but a lot of Catholics just do it for a social club.
Right.
Even with that, though, and the reason behind this is because of a sense of community and support. You're likely to, like, if you have a disease or something, you actually are likely to live like 3 times longer if you're a part of a religious group,
Yeah.
which is crazy. To be like up to I think 47% happier than a person that doesn't have a religion, who would be at like 18 to 20% maybe, because it comes down. It's not because of there's a God that's helping you or anything like
Right.
that, but it's because you're aware of community and you're aware of the power of connectivity. Like, we really are all connected in these crazy ways,
Yeah.
whether it be weird entity experiences with Jared or Jules, or talking to you in this podcast to try to develop sort of inspiration that goes out into the world and maybe hopefully infects other people to go out and do better things that helps us take down Donald Trump and
Yeah.
replenish.
Yeah. Totally.
It's these little seeds. And like, there was a time in my life where I went to church, and then there was a time in my life where I hated everybody that went to church. And now there's a time where I'm like, everything is perfectly fine. Like, it's all beautiful as long as it's not corrupt. Like, if you're involved in the spirit, whether it's God or
Right.
Jesus or Allah or like anybody that you decide to worship, if you go back to the roots of it, it's all the same thing. Like, it's the source.
Yeah.
Like, it's nature. Who was it? There's I love the quote. Man, I don't know I can't think of his name, but it's, I believe in God, I just spell it nature. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I'm putting it in my new book, but I'll tell you. Frank Lloyd Wright, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
I got that before I Googled it.
I've been guilty of that a few times. Yeah, I just finished reading a book called The Religions of the World. It was written about 60 years ago, and each chapter is kind of goes, I mean, as far as a book can go, each chapter goes in depth into a religion. So it goes into Hinduism, Buddhism, Catholicism, Judaism, Christianity, um, Islam. Then it gets into some of the smaller religions, I guess.
There's like 1,600 religions or
Yeah.
something crazy, and they all have a flood.
Yeah. So it's great. First off, I learned so much about all of them, but it was awesome just to hear the details behind each of them and how they connected, and it's just
really fascinating.
It truly is. Well,
what's that book called again?
The Religions of the World.
I'll add it to my list.
About 60 years ago it came out. I don't
recall. That's interesting. Have you ever read Fingerprint or Magicians of the Gods?
No.
Anything by Graham Hancock? You should read.
I know the name.
Guy is incredible, man. Like, or just listen to him on the Joe Rogan podcast. Like, it's lunacy.
Well, that podcast is lunacy.
Yep.
Well, Heath, we've covered a lot of stuff in here, and I've got a question, and I can make assumptions, but let's just say there's someone that's out there today listening to this podcast, and they're waking up with an empty bottle of hooch in their hand with their chin on a step, and their car's right behind them, and they're like, what the fuck am I doing? I need to wake up. And they haven't had that entity experience yet, but for whatever reason this podcast is playing in their ears. What words of wisdom or guidance would you give that person?
Well, you need to set a vision. You need to meditate, detox, get rid of any of these supplements that you're putting in your body that may be clouding your mind or your judgments or influencing your decisions. You need to get yourself into a state of mind that is going to allow you to come in contact with what you are truly passionate about or what you're truly valuable, what you truly value in life. And then you need to make a commitment to yourself to work towards that, no matter what. Don't give up. And once you do that, then you can get into all the other steps that I took, which, like, dude, first step is starting. Like, I talk to a lot of people who want to make a change in their life. And yes, if you're aware that you need to make a change, that is really the very first step. That's incredible to get to that point. But then actually applying action to do it is a different story, which is why the note card technique that I talked about earlier is so important. But you have to have a vision that you believe in, because if you don't, you won't do the things to work towards it. You'll fall off track. Same with everybody who starts a New Year's resolution. Why? You start something, everybody's done it. Every year I try to do learn languages, I fail.
Right.
Because it's not at the top of my list of what I want to work on. Don't cloud yourself. Don't create 30 items on your page. Don't even create 10 or 5. Pick one thing that is the most important to you. Who do you want to be? Who are you? What do you want to feel like in life? And visualize it. Close your eyes and visualize yourself in this position. Kim Nickel came to me when I first started, and she was like episode 4 of my old podcast. She taught me how to meditate. And she gave me this meditation, which is somewhere on my website for free. I don't know what the link would be, but where she would walk me through this process of me visualizing what my future looked like. If I was living, in that current state of mind that I wanted to live in. And if you can introduce setting a vision and then believing that you are part of that vision, everything's going to change for you. Visions become reality. I'm not kidding. They really become reality. If you set a vision and you work towards it every single day and you make decisions in every moment that are in alignment with your visions and your goals and your dreams, there is no question that those things are going to start manifesting. You are rewiring your brain to believe that these things are true. And therefore, when you're in a situation or you have to make a decision, you're going to start naturally making the decision that falls in alignment with that vision and that dream. Like, I had never written a book or put out a journal, but you know what? I started telling myself, I have this Sweet Ass journal out. I've created this journal. I sell X copies of this journal. And I still do this every single day with 20 to 30 affirmations. Every single morning and every single night, I write these things down and I check in and check out on them. But to start, literally, pick one thing. Mine was, I am location independent. And underneath that, of course, all these things come into place. Like, I've paid off my debt. I have left my job. I've created a business. Things like that fell into place with this larger vision. But the main vision was I am location independent. And I wrote that every day on a note card. I wrote the date, 6/22/16. I flipped it over and I wrote 2 things that I was going to do that day to work towards that. You're always going to run into roadblocks where sometimes it's going to be like, okay, those 2 things didn't work. Maybe you don't accomplish the 2 things that day. That's okay. Don't be hard on yourself.
Right.
What's important is to understand what's valuable to you and to make it feel like flow. Like you got to hustle, but make it feel like flow. Like what feels right? What do you enjoy doing? What do you love? And not confusing that with resistance or procrastination because they're different. But I think it's that, dude. You set the vision and then all the other things fall into place. Like eliminate distractions, man. Eliminate distractions, like minimize, get rid of all your shit. The game that I played, obviously, that I talk about in the Sweet Ass Journal that came directly from the minimalists and other people is like, I started on day 1, I got rid of 1 thing. Day 2, I got rid of 2 more things. Day 3, I got rid of 3 things. And once you start doing it, you become addicted to it. You become addicted to the freeing feeling of not having this clutter around you. And then you realize that you can do this with emotions as well. You can get rid of emotions by pouring them out on paper or telling somebody about them. You can get rid of computer gremlins by clearing out your email and deleting all your social media, whatever it is that you need to do. I've done all of those things when the time was right to do it.
Yeah.
So if you have your focus, right, and you're working towards it every day and you're eliminating distractions, all these incredibly magical things start happening. And then you can really trickle in other things like gift giving to increase your happiness and make you really feel great. That's something that's really awesome, which is also a part of the Sweet Ass Journal. And creating your abundance lists, celebrating your wins for the day and reflecting are very important. And then ultimately introducing something that gives yourself a little bit of space and breath, like meditation. I use the Insight Timer app. It's great. It's free. Has all sorts of guided meditations, music meditations. And I'm really getting into like more higher level stuff now with binaural meditations and things that are really cool, like frequencies and vibrations and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know if you do any of that, but it's fun.
639 hertz. And yeah.
I think that's what you got to do, man. And of course, if you want some kind of expanded version of that, like I do have that habit tracker that we talked about earlier, which I think is if you go to my articles on my website, you can get it, but I think it's at heatharmstrong.com/habit blaster. I'm not good with this. Like I said, I'm not great with promoting.
It's okay.
But you can actually download the spreadsheet template to plug in what habits you want to work towards. And I want to tell you, like, just pick one for now.
Yeah.
If that's what works for you, just pick one. You don't have to put 4 or 5, just pick one. And it can just be like brush my teeth every single day, because it's not about if you can sell $1 million online or if you can, create a business that allows you to be location independent. It's about how strong can you make your mind? Because if you can make your mind strong, you can do all of those other things, because it just comes down to how strong you are in the moment. Like, how can you make the right decision? And that starts with, I drink a gallon of water per day, right?
Yeah.
Or I read 10 pages in a book per day. That's how it started for me. I meditate 5 minutes a day. These are the goals that I started with when I began my journey. And now it's just crazy, dude. It's crazy looking at, like, now I'm writing things down. Like, I sell $3,000 a day on Amazon, or I sell 100 Sweet Ass journals per month.
Right.
Or right now I'm actually I don't drink ever. So I'm doing 100 days of no drinking period, because I actually stopped for a year after the entity experience. Yeah. And I'm not addicted. I got rid of that entity. Oh, okay. That was my advice. First of all, like, just pick one thing and work towards it with these habits. It's about how strong you can make your mind. But sorry for yelling there.
No, it's okay. It's all right.
Yeah, what was I just talking about? There's something really awesome that I was going to tell you that's crazy. But
you said the entity.
I know. Damn it, dude. It just like went in my head and out. I shouldn't have stopped myself. Man, bummer. I was talking about the old habits that I had and the new habits.
Yeah. You gave up drinking. Then you're.
Oh yeah. Okay. That was it. When I did that breathwork meditation in Nicaragua, dude.
Yeah.
So my entire life, I've had this massive bodily. I don't know what the word is, because I'm not good with vocabulary, but I've had this kind of allergy to spicy foods. I've had insanely bad acid reflux my whole life. I've throw up acid, like, and of course they had me on these acid blockers my whole life, which didn't help anything, just made it worse and temporarily relieved it. But I had so that entity went away, and then I faced 2 more entities.
Holy shit!
People think I'm crazy, but the first one was just it didn't say anything, but it was this overwhelming feeling of like my esophageal pain. Like it was just like this. Are you ready to let me go? And I was like, I don't. Yes. So like I just let it go and like watched it go. And the next one was this idea of like eating all sorts of these meats that I didn't need to eat because my whole life I've eaten meat.
Right.
But I had been thinking about like how much I'm like passionate about animal health and all these terrible disasters going on, and how much better I feel when I actually just eat vegetables.
Yeah.
That's the truth behind it. Like I love animals. I don't want to kill anything living, but I also feel 100 times better if I'm eating green smoothies and salads and things. And I think there was a reason that both of them were there. But this acid reflux thing and then this alcohol thing and the food thing. But I let the entities go. And dude, the next day, like they bring out this buffet of food. And they got some like, Caribbean type spicy stuff. And I'm like, I don't know why, but I'm really craving that spicy food. Like, I never had a craving. I've always stayed far away from it because it just puts me in this sheer pain. But I'm like, I'm craving this food like really bad. Start eating it. And I'm like, wow, like I like this. This isn't bothering me at all. And then I'm like, where's the hot sauce? Like, can I put some more hot sauce on it? I shit you not. Now, dude, I'm going to like restaurants in Portland and ordering like the level 10 ramen that they can give me. And it's not affecting me at all. It's crazy. Like I'm like eating, I'm like pouring red chili paste in, and like people are like shitting their pants around me trying just one sip. And I'm just like, I can do this all day. Like it's nuts, man. Like just one, you can rewire your brain in more ways than just taking prescription drugs and things like that. Like you can do it with your breath. And this was one of those things that finally proved to me, like, I don't need these things that my body craves. And it's really about, if you introduce your body to the things that are healthy for you, eventually, like if you have a sugar problem or you want to eat cake all the time and binge and watch Netflix, if you force yourself to create a habit to eat salad and green smoothies every day, no matter how terrible it is to you.
Right.
If you force yourself to do that for 21 days to 30 days or 100 days, in my experience, if you can do it 70% of the time over 100 days, your body will naturally kill off all of those little bacteria inside of you that want the sugar, that thrive off the sugar. I mean, they're the ones that are sending messages to your brain that says, eat more sugar so I can thrive. Those things will start dying, and then the probiotics from the good foods, the gingers and the cacao, and all of these things that are sugarless, and apple cider vinegar, whatever it is that you want to beast up your energy with, like those start building, and then all of a sudden you start craving these green things, and it's really weird. Of course, I didn't do that with the spicy food; it just switched in my head from the entity thing. But in my transition from alcoholic to not drinking and eating healthy foods, like, it's not easy. Like you don't just decide one day, hey, I'm going to stop eating cake and funnel cakes and sugar and ice cream, and now I'm just going to eat healthy. Because what happens, dude? People do it for 2 weeks, then they fall off the train and they eat like 3 times more cake than they did before.
Right. Got to make up for lost time.
Right. But if you can work at it for a longer period of time, give yourself 100 days, make it one of your visions in the journal, whatever it is. Like if you could do that, you're going to kill off that shit that is living in you that wants you to eat the nasty stuff, and you're going to grow all this amazing stuff that wants you to eat the healthy stuff. And then you're going to get over that hump where you're going to be drinking more water per day. You're going to be feeling better than you've ever felt in your entire life, and you're not going to have to think about it anymore because your body is thriving off of these little minions that are in your tummy that are like, give me some more salad, instead of the ones that are like, eat chocolate cake and let's sleep for 3 hours afterwards.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, man, thank you so much for everything that you shared, Heath. And it's funny, you and I both have like these huge water bottles. I've noticed throughout the show. But you shared so much. I took a ton of notes, and I can't wait to go back and listen to this and put my final show notes together. But you shared a lot of links, a lot of information with us. I will pull all that together. It's all going to be in the show notes. And I don't know, man, is there anything that we didn't cover that you would be remiss if you didn't tell us about?
Not other than I'm giving away a free copy of the Sweet Ass Journal, a physical copy.
Awesome.
Tom, if you send me your address, if you don't have one yet, I'll send you one too. I got to order some new ones first.
Yeah.
But if you guys go to heatharmstrong.com/ninja, which you'll put in the show notes, I think. You can get entered to win that free journal, but also for everybody who doesn't win, when you enter, you're still going to get you'll get an audio. You guys are audio people. So you'll get the audio version of the guide of the journal, which is like 70 or 80 pages, but it's me talking through all the different sections like minimalism, giving, setting your freedom actions, and a lot of the topics that we discussed today, so that you can at least listen to what the experience is like and then decide if it's something that you want to move forward with. You don't have to buy the journal to do this. Like literally get a note card and write 2 things every single day to start. But if you want more information about it, like that's the system that I use. And I still use it to this day. So sorry.
No.
I'm giving one away.
Yeah, awesome, man. Really appreciate it. I appreciate your time and energy, and I love what you're doing in the world. We're on a similar mission.
It's so fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're cool, man. We gotta keep in touch for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally. Yeah, absolutely. Well, cool, man. Thank you again. I really appreciate it, and I'll talk to you in the future. I really enjoyed speaking at Heath. The first thing he kind of started out was just talking about how being emotional is the root of your source, and that it connects you to your higher self of creativity. And I really agree with that. If you sit there and spend all this time and energy blocking things that you don't want to let out into the world or with your partner or whatever, then you're spending that energy and you're not able to use that energy for, self-development, creativity, or, whatever it is. Along with that, he talked about how it's a constant habit to look at the optimistic side. This is something that gets talked about a lot on the show. Like, if you get cut off in traffic, you could get upset or whatever, but for all you know, there's someone that's trying to get to the emergency room. We don't know what we don't know. And rather than looking at it in a negative way, just to really kind of focus and look at things more optimistically. The story about, what I named the episode after, Stranger on a Plane. I really, really agree with Heath. I think, so many people nowadays are just kind of looking at their cell phones, or, staying in and, watching Netflix or doing whatever, but they're not interacting with the people around them. And, everyone has a story, and that's what this podcast is about. I want to connect with people. I want to hear their story and understand where they've come from. And I love hearing, what Heath talked about. He's like, great, here's this Rastafarian type dude sitting next to me on the plane. He stinks, he smells, he's got jewelry and tattoos, oh man. And he was dreading it. But then, on the flight, he's like, dude, this guy's friggin' awesome. And it's that old adage about, judging a book by its cover. So there's just so much good stuff in this episode I really took away. And I've tried to capture all the references that we talked about, books and websites and stuff, but there's so many in this. I would just really encourage you to go over to, Heath's website and, check it out. And I'll put this in the show notes as well. But remember, he's got a free resource out there for you at heatharmstrong.com/ninja. So, hopefully you enjoyed this episode, and I'd love to hear what you took away from it.
Thanks for listening to the Up Rev Ninja podcast with your host, Tom Hudson. Navigate to our website at uprev.ninja today, where you will find additional resources to help you discover the best version of you. While you're there, join our newsletter and join the discussion on your favorite social media platforms. We've got some awesome guests lined up to share with us how they are becoming the best versions of themselves. Again, thank you for listening. Now it's time to go out and up-rev your life.
If you haven't, please head on over to iTunes and leave a 5-star review for the show. By doing so, this helps the show get noticed by more listeners and help spread the word of how to discover the best version of yourself. Also, if you have any feedback about the show or a guest that you would like, please go to my website, https://uprev.ninja and contact me. This week's review comes from Hayut Yogev. Discover the best version of yourself. That's all one can ask. I love the direction of this podcast of discover the best version of yourself no matter what you are doing, where or what you are wishing for. I believe that's all one can ask.